In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry wash away from me. I close my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. Only love. When I lose myself, when I feel I've lost my way, I just close my eyes, quiet my mind, and I hear Spirit sweetly say, there is only love. Only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only, sing it with us. There is only love. Only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is
Thank you, thank you. How about our band? We're on Facebook. Sure, we are on Facebook.
Hey everybody, we're trying to get this live thing to reach more people. I'm sure there's lots of your friends and family that would love to see the service. If you're savvy with Facebook, then you can go onto your feed, go to Unity of Savannah, tap on the live, and just hit share, and you can automatically share it to all of your friends and family. So if you can do that now and without, causing yourself a lot of trouble, do so. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Josh. We're really grateful that Josh is lugging his camera and his laptop down here every Sunday so that we can go out streaming live on the internet. So this is just another way that we can expand the message of Unity of Savannah out to people all over the world. We're gonna, there's no telling who could be watching us this morning. I don't want that to make y'all paranoid.
They're watching you.
Yeah. They're watching me. They can't see you. They can only see me in the band. They can't see the people in the crowd. So just know that. I'm still kind of in Savannah Pride after mode and pre-Halloween mode, so that's why I'm dressing down today. And Becky mentioned, get your rubber noses out. Well, I've already got mine on. Preparation for our festivities. I'm really excited about our Halloween service because you just never can tell how people are going to show up on Sunday. And then I love giving out the candy to all the kids out of our trunks after the service. So please come for that and join in. It's a lot of fun, and it'll really make your Halloween weekend. One of the things that I really liked about Savannah Pride was I was on a board for six festivals, and I decided last year that I was done. It was time to step out of the way and let someone else come in, and I did. And so this year we had a booth there with some of the folks. If you were in the booth or worked with Pride this year, would you stand up, please, so we can honor you? Thank you, thank you. So we had a lot of people come through and ask us what our church was about. It's really cool that for the whole 6 years that I did the festival, that our mayor, Edna Jackson, would come and she would speak to everybody. And we were wondering, and sure enough, this year our new mayor, Eddie DeLoach, was there, and he said hello to everybody. Our sheriff was there as well, and he told the whole crowd that it doesn't matter what color you are, what your sexual orientation is, how much money that you have, that he's here to serve us. And he said that he even puts his personal cell phone number on his website. And one of our church members said that she has called him before, and sure enough, he answered the phone. So it's really cool to see the leaders in our community supporting diversity in the city of Savannah. One of the reasons that I came to this church was because it was a diverse church. My first time being here, which was in the summer of 2009, I came and I was like, wow, this looks like what I've been dreaming of right here. It's great, And, I think it's important to remember that sometimes we can forget how good we have it here. There was a man that came a few Sundays ago and reminded us of that. He said, you guys have something really special here, and don't forget it. And I've been thinking about those words ever since. It's like I got a card from a man that goes to Unity Church in Charleston, and he's been taking classes from me for years. He goes to our Canuga retreat. He watches us on the internet. He also attends the Unity in Charleston. And he sent me a card at the Canuga retreat this year. He gave me a t-shirt that said, "And also with y'all." He said, "I think this fits you." And in the card he said, I've been seeing you for the past few years, and I just wanted to congratulate you that you've been ordained as a minister. You're in a loving partnership. You bought a house, and you have a thriving church. Congratulations. And I went, thank you, because I forgot. Oh, I've only only been working for these things a really long time, and now I have them. They're right in front of me, and then I get up in the morning and I get so busy that I forget how good I have it. So I hope that this morning's service is just a reminder to all of you to look for the good. Like to think about all the good things that you have in your life. It's real easy to focus on what I don't have or what I don't want or what I don't like. But our practice here, our teaching is that whatever we focus on, we get more of. And so wouldn't you like a lot more love and kindness in your life? You know, and the good news we have to share at Unity is that you don't have to try for or work or struggle or earn God's love. It's already inside of you. It's around us all the time. The more that we look for it, the more we call it forth, the more we look for it in us, the more it's going to show up for us. I mean, that just makes perfect sense, right? Here's an experiment that you can try. Think about, I'd really like to find a quarter on the ground this week, and you'll probably end up with like $5 or $6 in quarters, just because you're looking to find money on the ground, right? We get what we express. I guarantee you this will work. Try it. You set your intention and say, I'm going to find a quarter on the ground every day, and you will find it. You might find $5. I won $100 on a scratch-off card 2 weeks ago. Praise Georgia. Glad to support our local schools. Yes. I wanted to share with you some really beautiful words from the book of 1 John in the Bible. Now, I am not going to pretend to be a biblical scholar. I am not. However, I find the way that what we call the Bible came into being, I find that very fascinating to learn about who wrote it, why they wrote it, what we really know about the people that wrote the Bible, who they were writing it for, what time period in history were they writing it for. I mean, there's so much that we can learn, like, were they Romans? Were they Greek? Were they Hebrew? What audience were they writing it for? So when we look at the book of 1 John, I did just a little kind of casual study of that this week, and I found out that John, of course, is a very common name. We don't really know exactly which John it was that wrote the book, 1 John. Okay? If you study biblical history, there's a number of Johns that are credited with writing books in the Bible. Of course, there's the apostle or disciple John, who some say was the beloved disciple. John represents one of our 12 powers, the power of love, which is what we're focusing on this morning. Divine love, which is, once again, not something out there, but it's within us. We don't have to earn it or get it. We have to open to it, allow it in our life. So there's John. And also, some people say, well, maybe John wasn't the beloved disciple. Maybe it was Mary. You know, read The Woman with the Alabaster Jar by Margaret Starbird. That'll open your eyes to a few things. She was a devout Catholic woman. She was married to an admiral, and she read this book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail back in the 70s, and it said, oh, well, Mary was married to Jesus, and they had children, and she ran off to France after he got killed, and that's why they have statues of the Black Madonna over in Europe. And so she was fascinated by this, and she began studying about Mary, and Dan Brown, who wrote the Da Vinci Code, based a lot of what he put in that book on her writing. I did a retreat with her, and it's just amazing, all the evidence, because she's like, I want to know if this is true or not. So she researched this. So maybe the beloved disciple wasn't John, but it was Mary Magdalene. Who knows? Okay, we don't know all these things for certain. That's the point I'm trying to make. So the person who wrote 1 John, maybe it was the disciple John. There's also John the evangelist that could have been a follower of John the Baptist. There's another guy mentioned, John the elder. We don't really know who that was. It could have been someone who studied and was a disciple of John and was now writing with the voice of the Apostle John, if you know what I'm talking about. He's giving authority to his writings by saying, I'm John the Apostle, and really he's John the Elder. You know, some people even think that groups of people may have written the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they stuck the apostles' names on it to lend it credence. Okay, so there's so much discussion and debate about all this. So we have John the disciple, John the evangelist, John the elder, and then there's John of Patmos, who was called that. He wrote the book of Revelation. He was exiled to a Greek island called Patmos, and he had a vision while he was there, and that was the book of Revelation that he wrote down. So the book, 1 John, which comes after Acts in the New Testament, could have been written by any one of 4 different people. Or maybe 2 of those people were the same person. Like maybe John the disciple was John of Patmos, the last disciple, the only one that didn't get killed. Everybody else got crucified or got their head chopped off. Right? Here's something else. I started looking at the ages of the disciples. And, you know, people talked about, well, if they weren't married, why weren't they married? Well, if you look at the Jewish tradition back then, young men, not women, but boys, were educated up until the age of 15. And at that time, they were given tests, well, they were tested all along the way, to see if they'd become rabbis or not. And so if they didn't pass the test, like they had to memorize the whole Torah, was one of the things, then they usually went to work for their family. Okay, Jesus was a carpenter. His father was a carpenter. Okay, but then they didn't get married until they were after the age of 18. Usually a rabbi was up in age around 30 something. Jesus started his ministry when he was 30. So his disciples were probably between the age of 15 and 18. They were fishermen. They weren't married yet. I know, right? Because you see all these movies on television and they're like old white guys, right? They're the disciples. Who thought that up? Like, where does that come from? But it has no basis in historical, there's no evidence for that at all. We made that up, okay? So we make up a lot of things about God. And whatever you make up about God is how you'll behave. If you think God is out there judging and punishing, you're going to be judging and punishing people in your life as well. Well, they need to get it because they're not like me. They're different, so you're going to get it. Because God only loves people like me, that look like me and act like me and think like me and talk like me, right? So, even knowing all that, we can take this book of 1 John and find some of the most beautiful prose in the whole Bible. This is book 4. It's my favorite one, chapter 4. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God lives in them. And that's right here in front of us all the time, if we're willing to look for it, if we're willing to focus on it. It's called practicing the presence of God. Brother Lawrence was a Christian monk. Anybody heard of him that wrote a book called Practicing the Presence of God? He washed the dishes for God. He repaired the other monks' shoes for God. He was the happiest of all the monks. And they would come in the kitchen while he was working to hang out with him because they felt something when they were in his presence. practicing the presence of God. Now, Joel Goldsmith, I've been talking about him a lot the last few weeks. He was an early New Thought writer. He was trained in Christian Science before he had this revelation, which he called The Infinite Way. And he wrote his first book, it's the only one you got to read, The Infinite Way. And all he tells us in there over and over in lots of different ways is seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Wow, where did that come from? Heard that before? Go inside, look for God in there, and all these things will be added to you. You know, Jesus told us, why are you worried about what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear or where you're going to live? Like, look at the birds outside. Do you ever see like a skinny bird? Like, you should see the pigeons in my backyard. You know, what about the lilies of the field? How they're clothed. Even Solomon, King Solomon, all his glory wasn't equal to one of those. And why do you think you're any less? See, that's our problem. Is we think we're less. We think we're separate. We think we're disconnected from love. And I don't want to say God's love right there because it gives the idea that God is a being who is loving us, when the truth that we teach, that the rock that we build our house on here is that God is love. God isn't loving. God is love. So there isn't any way that you can ever be separate or apart from that because you're made of God. You are an expression of God. You are a vibration of God. You are a manifestation of God. Everything that God is, you are. Right where you are, love is. Right where you are, God is. Right where you are, life is. You're everything that God is, expressing individually as you. And nobody else can do it like you can. That's why it's so beautiful to see all these young people at the Savannah Pride event just dressed in all of these costumes and just living life out loud. And you know, when I was on the board for Savannah Pride, we didn't call it Savannah Gay Pride. Savannah Pride. Because we're celebrating everybody. Not just gay people, everybody. You know, I've said this before. This isn't the gay church in Savannah. It isn't the black church or the white church. It's the everybody church. Everybody's welcome here. And I think if you just look around at the different people in the room today, you'll see that's true. I'm not making this up, or it's something that I wish we had here. It's what we do have here, because we celebrate the individual expression of God. And we will continue to do that until the whole world wakes up to that. See, that's our job. Non-Judgment Day is coming, and y'all are part of that. We have a Buddhist monk who's coming here. He was here last Friday, and he's an American Buddhist monk. So he's a young man, about 25 years old, a young white guy with a shaved head, and he's very funny. He's told a lot of Buddhist jokes. But he'll be here the next 2 Fridays. And he told us this story about his teacher who was going to lead a meditation retreat in New York, in the Catskills. And so they were driving him up there, and they decided, well, we'll stop along the way at one of these overlooks and show him the beauty of upstate New York. So they pull off to the side of the road, and they're like, look, here's the Delaware River, and look at those mountains over there, and isn't this beautiful? And he was looking at the wall, and he kept saying, how kind, how kind. Because the Buddhists have a practice of contemplating loving kindness. And he was focused on the kindness of the people who built that wall so he could come and look at the view without falling off the mountain. I take great pride in brewing my own coffee. Okay, I go to Starbucks and I buy this Guatemalan coffee. whole beans, and then I take it home, and I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I sit on the bed and I go, okay, here we go, help me out here. Go into the kitchen, and I put the pot of water on, get my beans and grind them up, and then I put them in this really cool stainless steel French press I had. And then I sit there, and sometimes I read the daily word or whatever, and then I pour the water in there, let it set, and then I plunge it, right? Pour it, have the coffee. I'm like so proud of that. Okay. Well, the young monk got me thinking about something, because somebody had to grow those beans somewhere. And it says Guatemala on the package. So it was a long way from there to here. Like, how did they get here? Somebody had to pick them, and then they had to put them in a container, and then they had to put them on a plane or a boat, and then they had to unload the boat or the plane, and then somebody put them on a truck, and then the truck drove them over to the store, and then the people at the store got them out, and they put them on the shelf so I could go and buy it and bring it home and have a cup of coffee. Like, that's a lot of people. And we're not even talking about the people who built the store, who designed the store, who founded Starbucks, or the people that built the planes or the boats, or bought the planes or boats, or the gas it took to go in the plane to get it over there. I mean, just think about that. How many people it took so that I could have a cup of coffee. Now he says that this is an example, our Buddhist friend says this is an example of loving kindness. That from a Buddhist perspective, it does not matter what the motivation of the people working the job did. But because I benefit from it, I'm receiving a gift of loving kindness from the universe. And how many people demonstrated this loving kindness so I could have, and that's just talking about a cup of coffee, right? That's not talking about what we do throughout our day. I'm typing on my computer when I'm here in the office. Well, I love my laptop. Somebody, oh, thank you, Bill Gates. For Windows, thank you, Steve Jobs. You know, think about it. All the people who are working to design these little chips and everything going in there. So the point is, can I go through my day practicing the presence of loving kindness? Can I go through my day focused on God's love? Okay, Emmett Fox, The Golden Key. If you don't have that little pamphlet, we have them in the bookstore. We'll give you one. The idea is, if I'm having a problem in my life and I start thinking about the problem, then I become aware and I turn the golden key and I start thinking about God instead. Joel Goldsmith, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you. Our monk, Brother Lawrence, polishing the pots, thinking about God, happy all the time. So my invitation to you is to practice the presence of love. Now, I'm not putting this out here as like a rhetorical thing. Oh, that would be great to do one day. Like, what about if the rest of this day, since we have a pretty good start going already, I'd say when we leave here, we're going to be in a pretty good frame of mind, right? What if the rest of the day, we practice thinking about love? We practice thinking about God. We practice thinking about loving kindness in everything that we do. Okay, so I'm going to lunch, going with this person. Oh, how kind it is that you said you would go to lunch with me. Oh, and how wonderful it is that I have a full tank of gas in my car. Wow, that feels really good. Oh, and I'm going to go and eat dinner, and I don't have to make it. Somebody is going to make it for me. Ooh, and look at all this money that I have that I'm able to pay for it with. I mean, just think about if we lived from that perspective all the time. That's the practice of the presence of God. Being aware of what is right in front of us all the time. It doesn't have to be earned. You're not separate from it. You can't fall out of it. You can't get away from God. That's the good news. People used to scare me with that. God can see what you're doing. You can't get away from God. You can't hide. That's right. You can't hide from God's love. You can't hide from love because God is love. So I invite you today, tomorrow, when you go to work, see what your day at work would be like if all day long you thought about God, if you thought about love, you thought about kindness while you were doing it. Because our teaching is, whatever we focus on, we get more of. Charles Fillmore, one of our co-founders, called it the law of praise. Whatever we praise and give thanks for, we get more of. Or the law of increase. Whatever we focus on grows. So from that consciousness, let's breathe that in together. And just center ourselves for a moment. Let's hear the words of our friend John again. John, love. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. If we love one another, God lives in us, and His love is made complete in us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God. God lives in him. And so it is. I just want to stop. Thank you, God. Yes, I do. How sweet it is to be the
set me